this is going to be a comprehensive guide towards understanding what is no code, why does it exist, and how you can make the best advantage. At the end of this video, I want to have anyone who's watched this understand the fundamentals of why no code exists in the first place, what led us to developing a technology like this, and what does this technology have for the future, what is the potential it holds. A person who understands this to the fullest can also understand if there's anything new that's coming now that AI is out there, if there's anything that they can mix, match, and create out of this present existing technology. I believe in understanding the fundamentals, and it's once you understand the fundamentals that you can use what you have for things that it's not built to use. And creativity comes from mixing and matching things. That's something for a different note. If you watch my videos, you would have grasped that quite well. For this video, let's take it around no code. So now before we start with the video, I want to give you a brief understanding of what no code is so that everyone is on the same page and we can work our way towards understanding no code through a story, right? And in the story, I want to walk you through a series of events. Each of this event which had no connection to no code but contributed towards the evolution. If I am to tell you what is no code, it's basically that a lot of pre-built components are out there and just a platform that allows you to mix and match these components to form new pieces of software. Basically, chat is built by many people, so you don't really have to code and build a chat system, or you don't really have to code and build a database system. It's just something that's fundamentally used by everyone and something that's common in any app or any software that's there. I'm not saying every app has it, but it's just something that's common. So instead of having these built by writing code, you just have it built as a component, and you can just use it and you can just call it and use it in your app. That's what no code fundamentally is. It's just a lot of components that's pre-built available at your disposal, and you can just mix and match and use it. So now that you understand what is no code, from the point why has this come in the first place, we need to reverse engineer from the point where computing started. I think that's an ideal standpoint because that's where the foundation of everything lies. Now, computing from the start has had only one intent, that was to solve complex problems that human brain could not solve, and it's often been used for business applications or mathematical purposes. At the start, the size of the room used to exist. This was the applications. As computing evolved, started personal computing, and when a common person is interacting with a computer, now that a computer is something that a common man uses, let's say for example to send an email, the person only wants an experience of typing an email, putting the sender's address, and just sending it, because that's what the person's intuitive real life experience tells. And well, that's not been the case with computers, although that's what you see right now. There's a lot of things that happen in the background, like as let's say for example when you're drafting an email, you have to establish a secure connection with the server, the domain needs to, the DNS needs to work, and there's just a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that oftentimes today's cloud is behind the software that you see, like a Gmail interface or whichever email provider you use. Behind the scenes, all these things happen, and this is not something that you are exposed to. Fundamentally, as computers started evolving into something that's of personal use, companies started creating interfaces that can offer experiences that's quite intuitive and quite real life like for all the people using these computing devices. And that is where software development came in. So basically, the intent of software development has always been towards creating experiences that's intuitive for common people. And although there is front end, there's back end, and everything else in software development, fundamentally this is the only thing that software development has intended to do through the time. It's just about creating experiences for common people who don't want to be involved in the computational process of doing a certain task. So throughout history, as we evolved into coding and different languages and everything started coming in, as more and more consumers started interacting with computers, more and more common problems started being solved. So as personal computing started getting commercialized, and as it started getting in the hands of the common man and woman, a lot of consumer-oriented programs and consumer-oriented applications started coming off. So a lot of companies started developing a lot of consumer applications like Gmail, Google, like whatever other tool, the social media platforms and everything else, right? Most of the consumer-oriented tools were built for problems that were experienced by over 100,000 people or 1,000,000 people, so that these companies who are building these tools can make the best returns out of it. Because building a software is expensive. It's been expensive till 2020 because you need to hire a developer. The developer needs to know how to write code. It just cannot be done with just one person. You need a person who understands front end. You need a person who understands back end. You need a person who can, get things in place. There's just a lot of complication into building an experience on a computing device. So there's a huge cost barrier, and because of this cost barrier, only the problems that's experienced by a huge bunch of people were being solved, right? Wherein this computing power or this computing computational device that I have at my home for use, I could be using this in a separate different way that's custom built for my requirement to have my problem solved in the most efficient manner. This is something that can be done, is that I hold has the potential for, but I'm just unable to do it because I don't have the knowledge automate this task and how to set a process that's personalized to me. Now if you look at the use case, maybe the most efficient way for me to have my day go daily would be having just one. I wouldn't want to just use the Windows operating system. I'd like to have an operating system of my own where I go in, the first thing I see is the emails, then I have the task list that I have to do for the day, and then maybe I have a separate, I can have experiences created in my own way. And this is something that, if possible to do, is something that adds so much value to my life. A non-technical person can only dream of this, but they always have to rely on something that's pre-built for the mass use so that they can have their job done, and they have to work their way around the software than having the software work around for their way, because people are different and people are unique. That's the most beautiful part about people. And as we evolved, we started realizing that most of the processes, when personalized, can be more productive. And that's when Notion started coming in, because a lot of people start moving into Notion just because Notion, you could personalize things to your way of use, and you can create work OS, and you can create an ecosystem within Notion for your personal use. And that's when the idea of no code actually started booming in. And seeing this problem, a lot of entrepreneurs realized all these components that goes inside a software are common, like the chat system or the text system or the rich text editor or whatever be it. Most of the components within a software is common. So they started creating a library of components, and they started creating a builder wherein you can drag components from the library, drop it in the builder, and have a custom software built for your requirements. And hence started the evolution of no-code application. So as this no-code application started coming in, most cases even there was a learning curve to understand this particular software. Now you don't really have to learn how to code, but you need to know how to use the components within the library, how to find the right components, how to match it and mix it together and the builder and ship it out as a product. So because there still was a knowledge barrier of knowing how to use this particular no-code builder, who couldn't earlier afford to have their own custom software built because of the high cost in code, who made the first shift. So personally, within Fasterbuild, we've seen a lot of companies who wanted to have their own custom internal operations done through software that's built for their requirement, than having to work their way around a CRM or break their head around pre-built software that's out there. So if they have a certain way of operation, if the software can complement that particular way of operation, that adds so much value to them. And companies started making this shift, and eventually more and more no-code tools started coming in, and with each tool it started becoming more and more easier for the consumer to interact with. So if you look at Bubble has been one of the no-code tools from the start. It's quite complex for a beginner to start with, but at the same time, Notion can also be considered as a no-code tool, and it's so much more convenient for a common man to use. So no-code has been evolving from the use case of creating software for companies towards now creating software for individuals, and each person can now just log up and create a custom software to automate any of their repetitive tasks through their day. Streamlined experience of interacting with the computational device. And the best part is that now anyone and everyone can use the computational device that they hold, like say for example their phone or their laptop, to the fullest potential, because now they don't have to work their way around the software. They can have the software work its way around their problem. And that is what no code intends to solve. Fundamentally, now if you compare no code with code by foundations, you can see that code has always been around solving common problems because of the huge cost of entry, wherein no code has been always fundamentally about solving problems certain sections of certain groups of people. If the group of people is beyond 100,000, or it doesn't make sense for no code. It makes sense for code because it's a bigger audience. But if the group is more relatively smaller, then it makes so much sense to have a no code application built. And that's quite true in the case of the scale that these no-code applications offer also. If you see, as the scale goes beyond a certain point, no-code platforms start seeming really expensive, because and on those use cases, code is much more viable option. And it's much more stable and much more predictable compared to no-code at scale. So code is something that needs to be exercised at scale, I feel, and no-code is something that's to be exercised on a very localized level. And that's been the goal of no-code only. So if you look up to any of the blogs or articles around no code, you will see this line quite often. It's about democratizing the software development process. So if you refer to the meaning of the word democratizing, it means giving power to all. And no code has always been about giving power to all people around the ecosystem to have their own custom solutions made. And code, on the other hand, has always been about solving problems at scale. So that's my take on what is no code and how is it different from no code, and how you can now use it at your best advantage. Let me know in the comments if I missed out on anything. This is one of the first videos that I'm making, so I'm pretty sure I'll be making a lot of flaws here and there. So I intend to improve myself on this and make sure I'm better at this. All your feedbacks are quite appreciated. Now with that being said, I'd like to wind this video, and I'm not quite sure yet what would be the next video that I'm putting out, but I'm pretty sure it would be coming up on the screen anywhere over here, so you can just check that out. That being said,